Well, hello everyone. I'm here, Dr. Aaron Shealy, talking about Masterclass. Masterclass is one of those programs that is really hard to get into. I got into the YouTube Masterclass, which is where it originated. That it never really had many classes until Harvard started opening them, not just through Coursera, but through their own school for the Masterclass to be taught in various places for the best schools for lower tuition. Still costs though. And you'll find that Coursera is what makes it the lower tuition, and Masterclass is actually a lot more to pay for to even get. But what's interesting is that in YouTube, there's like levels of filmmaking that you can get promoted on. You can be just a regular YouTuber and be kicking everybody's butt, but you could also be on YouTube creators, which is a number of criteria. And really, that's one realm that they have to test you in those for about 10 years before you can get to the masterclass level, 10 years apiece. And my masterclass level came sooner because I decided to use it as a college course, and that was through Coursera, and that's the class you sign up for there. And then they put the final together when I do. I guess they're real good at it. And, some of these master classes are closed captioned. Some of these master classes have gone overseas to be seen with subtitles about us teaching about the love of film. Now, I want to make one thing strongly clear about my film criticism course, which I may teach again. There probably won't be uh, a film criticism 3, but we might teach film criticism 1 again and teach it in a different way, but with the same kind of terms. Probably not, because this is masterclass, so we're probably going to go on to a different topic of teaching every semester, which is not traditionally always what professors do. Usually they have a staple class that they're really expert at, that they teach repeatedly, but they change the way they teach it, of course, and all professors know that no two lectures are the same, and that they would teach it in different ways. That I teach cinema is kind of like the ways that I was taught by Dr. John Wagner, who teaches at who's the dean of Calarts, California Institute of the Arts. That this class is offered through, and it's just a whim that Coursera would teach it for Harvard, USC, and Calarts. And those are big schools, and I'm definitely like in a smaller town. I'm in a smaller town where my Grand Junction, Colorado, where it's like my pool of information is coming from CMU, and that's Colorado Mesa University, and it's a really good school. And I get along well there. I've taught classes there in person to gain my teaching credentials, so to speak. But Colorado Mesa University has our back on Masterclass because they know that there's been enough that have been online that for a long enough time. We've been here for, this is heading into, it'll be at the end of this semester and the end of the summer, then we're headed into year 3. And this semester starts on like freaking, and so we've already been on for 2 years. So they would, if it was a mistake on YouTube or something, then they would have corrected it by now. I don't think they'd let us hold this class without permission, and lo and behold, I got permission. Who from? Coursera, and Coursera said they'd talk to the schools about it, and everybody was cool with it. And why is it a 3-tiered class? Because those are the schools that I have to make up the most hours of teaching for, so I thought I would teach a class for them. That was how it came about. Those were the classes that I needed to teach the most in to pass with all of my credentials. And there are other schools that I've taken degrees from that I made up all the criteria, but that the master class is approving all of them, not necessarily access to the master class, but all of them, the insight of knowing that my professor days will be fulfilled. That's why I got a job with YouTube Masterclass for the long term, and it's not going to end. Like, it just goes on. Now, I don't want to overflood the makers with videos, but I noticed one thing that I keep forgetting is that there's a mathematics class that is taught in Harvard's Masterclass series, and they may not even be YouTube Masterclass. And they're usually right there with the ratings, on Google with mine, which is upstartish for me to even have mine in the ratings that high after a year. But it's cool that they are, because it's Masterclass, and it's invincible class teaching, because now that we can turn it into course credit, we kind of have to follow this lecture out to where it goes. But that I will have all the professor clasships I need, and I needed those 3 the most, was why I chose jobs at their school other than UCLA, which gave me a PhD, and these are very beautiful things. And yes, they are provable. No, you don't have to call anybody if you don't believe it. If you don't believe it, that's fine. You can just hit the stop button and move on with your life. And if you think people are being led to it wrongly, well, we're in the same boat as the mathematics class, because they're teaching for credit with the Masterclass at Harvard, and they're totally getting away with the whole thing, and they're even teaching logarithms and algorithms and things I love, and I've taken that course, so it's like a graduate level. So I'm sure not everyone wants to agree that there is a doctor in another medium than medicine, or I guess you could be maybe a lawyer and everybody'd know it, or an accountant and everybody'd know it, but I'm none of those things. But a doctor of the arts, a doctor of communication studies, doctor of aesthetics, basically it's a doctor of the arts. All of it adds up to like one PhD that kind of matters most, and that's the Calarts PhD. And the things that you have to do is like running one of those old ancient Greek Olympics. You got to win every medal at the contest of the Olympics to even be considered for the postdoctoral program. And I haven't won an Olympic medal, so I am holding on by a small string of cheese when I say, my whole career is still in the hands of the people that I gave my art to and promised more art to them. Some of that's just my audience, but some of it's my teachers. And so now I'm thinking it's a good thing that Masterclass hired me for so long. Because since Masterclass hired me for so long, I won't have to worry about getting all the teaching credits I need. Granted, I got some at CMU, and those were powerful enough to stand up. But that the community around me is starting to get a little dodgy about whether they believe any of this is true. Hey, all Masterclass been there, right? I don't think it's anybody's guess. What they probably want is one of their own, and it costs money, and you have to watch all the classes, and you have to take at least one semester from every teacher. And I took, for instance, the semester of Martin Scorsese teaching, and it wasn't exactly a walk in the park. I mean, it was a lot easier for me to handle because I wasn't giving out the description one way or the other incorrectly, But some of his class did have the terminology we hear in semiotics and philosophy and signs and signifiers, and the signified. And the sign is like the word, and then the signifier is what the word is supposed to kind of thesis, antithesis to. And the signified is how the word matches, and all of its redundant obsoleteness is taken out, but all of its definitions that go on forever are kind of curtailed, and the definitions that go on forever are really the tautology of everything. And Scorsese did bust out the tautology in that class, and I'm glad I took it because it was hard as nails. But I only took one semester, and really, with mine, you can take all the semesters. I'm opening it up because we're just going out remotely live, and a lot of these others are filmed with a studio audience. And I know Masterclass has been around. There's people that are like twice as far as 3 times as far as I am with it, because it started up again years ago, but it actually had been going on for a long time, because chances are NYU is using it for, and Spike Lee and Quentin Tarantino were teaching kind of an episode of Masterclass back in the day, and they did teach about film at NYU. And I think that a lot of people forget that Tarantino was open with his filmography and films that he talked about, and that's why we'll discuss him all the way through. We're not going to have much biographical information. It's more of an auteur study, like stylistic study. Like, I'm not going to go around and be like, I wonder who or I or him has done more of this. And I'm not going to do any of that. We all know he's the reason for it all. Tarantino's the reason to even teach school. I mean, that's really, and everyone is going to love when I'm just talking about Reservoir Dogs and mulling over the cast and mulling over the script and I've gone through that film to try and find out its perplexities, and it's kind of like the usual. And then there were none set up, which I've said before, because it's like you got five little Indians, and then you're down to two little Indians, then to none, because they just got each other, And it's like then there were none series goes on with Reservoir Dogs, and I don't think that's what he's intending is this like Agatha Christie mystery, but that Reservoir Dogs turns into a total Agatha Christie modern day bank robbery movie is really a point that I'm gonna like distract myself from on Reservoir Dogs Day. But we're not saying that you have to believe in us here as professors necessarily, unless you're taking the class. And you're getting units for it. As you're getting units for it, then you kind of have to believe it's real. It's not the best masterclass on the web. It's not the highest ranked, but it's high ranked, and it's considered one of the best, and all the master classes are like that. So you don't have to worry about it if you sign up for a class like the integrity that professors find. You'll find that from my lectures. It's not an easy class. You'll find that there are things that are left out and put in and dangerously resorted to filmographies, and there were so many things we researched together as a class that I don't think they would hardly be considered less than a graduate, at least an undergraduate credit, or either one for that matter, because the film school goes on for whatever the years you sign up for to the years it's over. I mean, my film school's still going on, and I'm at California Institute of the Arts, and I've got to make like more movies, It's like for school even that I told them I'd have, And now there's like 9 movies to go, and we have to have them done by the end of the decade, or else get an extension, and get your extension soon if you think you need it. And I'm like, can I get my extension soon if I think I need it? I'm like, it's not like all an easy battlefield. It's not like all, when you're a professor, you got to watch out for certain traps, and that is someone's not going to like you as a professor, and so they're going to downgrade you in front of someone that does. Unfortunately, that doesn't really happen to me, because then they'd be getting into the service of thinking that I actually went to school at one of those places, so they would hang up immediately and not even have that argument with the schooler. But then I've had ones tell me they're going to have an argument with the school, and don't warn the school. Just don't even put it out there in the media. I'm only putting it out to show you my own, bravura as being a real person, really teaching this class. I'm not like the most like animated one. I'm not the most like this one or that one. We're not looking for master class distinctions necessarily that way. It's more who we are as professors and how the time we share as professors. And I don't think that masterclass would allow you in if you weren't proven to be able to teach a certain subject. That is Coursera, I know for a fact they wouldn't let you in unless they were going to use the videos like this one for their inventory of your entire history of masterclass. So that way, if it goes to another site or if it goes somewhere else, but it's always licensed under YouTube for this, because we got the YouTube space for this, and that's great. But I'm coming to you as an interim, and I told you a little bit about myself: writer, director, musician. My music's done well. My movies have done well. That I've directed. The internet sort of says I'm a director in a lot of cases. Writer, yeah, I'm a good writer, but I've been told both sides of my writing and directing. It's not always good reviews for me, and I don't really buckle under the bad reviews, because like when I do my own reviews, I know they're pretty accurate, but then you can't be too close to your own material and try to rate it properly, because then you're like already used to it. But I think there's something to be said about self-awareness of whether you got it right or not, despite whether the critic comes out right and says, well, you did this one good, because someone might think that they did it bad and really know more than you about it. And you might tell someone it's bad, but never do that. Never tell anyone their art is bad. I tried to tell you guys that earlier. It just breaks someone's like mental structure down to nothing when you tell them they're a bad artist. I mean, they could come out raging against you later if you said they were a bad artist, and then they prove themselves if you said they were a bad writer and they proved themselves to all these institutions, you knew you were already selecting them. It comes pretty hard to fall on cases that are misidentified because of the lack of resources. And I don't think Colorado Mesa University is going to let me down. Like, I'm the underwriter at KMSA. It's fine. They're not trying to go against it. Locally here in this small town, Grand Junction, I do sometimes write a circuit on the paper, but I'm finding problems are defending the phone that I wrote the story from because, look, I've been hacked a couple of times even recently, but I don't think that really makes it my proponent to go after it and look for it and see what happened wrong and see what got written down wrong. But fortunately, not everything is going to go perfect in the system you have. Sometimes people will sabotage it on purposely so that they can get around getting in trouble for saying I'm not a professor, even though there were some people in my doctor's office who were claiming I wasn't a professor. Now, I'm okay with them thinking that. It's not going to stop the class. It's not going to stop me from sermonizing about it. It doesn't even feel bad, really. I don't even have to flare that it's illegal to think I'm not PhD, but at least that was a little respected more when I concurrently was able to explain that they were out of state and I was taking the classes remotely on Coursera. I'm now teaching remotely. This is remote. This is a remote. The cameras are remote in this case. And it shows you what I'm doing in Masterclass. So I'm not like, oh, woe is me, fell on hard times or whatever. Not at all. This has been the greatest freaking collaborative year of writing. It's been a great year of original cinema. I've directed 3 movies that were all big hits, and I was one of those truthos about it where I bragged on my own hits a little bit, but not really all of them, because some of them I kind of hid from everyone in entertainment view, but it's still there. I mean, I think people are just afraid of my horror movie, and they think they're so afraid of it that they just want to call it cheesy or something like my earlier one. But, I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. And I'm the Masterclass teacher, and I'm supposed to be the answer to that. But it's been a great year. We had great movies. We had great time with music. Like, I think there were 13 albums that we released in the past year that were complete master re-recorded, and that's all taken care of by Capitol Music, who we signed with, and now I can sign other bands on Capitol. I was trying to sign my friend Dave Luff on Capitol because I knew he was such a good guitarist, but he'd have to look into seeing how that works because he is a really great guitarist, and so is his friend George, and they're in my fraternity. And my fraternity Sigma Nu, I stick up for them anyway because they got me out of a few near-death experiences themselves. Anyways, then we get to the fact that we're talking too much about ourselves, but that's because this is the interim, and it's just a biographical information resume, And there's a little bit more to talk about. I don't really mind that things have kind of gone wrong because the movies, the books, the music, it's all there. It's all like high impressionable. It's all expert job. It's all been framed by the Library of Congress and UCLA in internet authorial guidelines to finding films. And that's because these are important to them. They wouldn't have promoted me to these spots unless I had finished my PhD and they thought I could do a good job at it. It wasn't like, oh, well, they got it, we'll give them every job. Just whatever job I've applied for, and I've applied for a lot of writing jobs. Like, you got to do that as a writer. If you're in school for writing at all, you got to start applying for writing jobs right away. And there's so many internet writing jobs you can get your hands on. But in this case, they didn't unlock my keys until I finished graduate school, which took 20 years. And I don't think anybody wants to hear about how scary and sometimes uncertain that seemed, even though it was encouraged and told me I would succeed while I was there at California Institute of the Arts. It's like they told me I'd succeed, that I'd fall on some hard times. That's like one of the jobs of all writers, is to fall on some hard times. And then you get through it, you're like, Now you're addicted to ramen because it's the thing you love to eat so much when you didn't have any money. No, I'm kidding. I don't really mind that. I just actually, it's funny. I just got off the internet with the Forbes website, and I'm not really trying to give anything away, but they printed my article on Elon Musk and how he's the richest man in the world, and I just like reminding you all that Elon Musk has made a few of my posts go viral on Twitter, so I have to praise him, so I'm praising him to Forbes, I'm praising Trump's to Forbes. I feel like I'm selling out on the Trump thing, because the Trump thing is like, we already did the Trump thing as Republicans, even if we voted or not voted. And now it's illegal not to vote, which I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to have to overturn that law somehow. Overturn that law somehow, somebody. And, but it just means that, like, what about those people that voted against Trump? I mean, were they all considered, like, waste of time? Or, like, if I'd have voted for Trump, would that have really thrown my French liberal criticism agenda out of structuralism and post-structuralism? I don't really think those are the reasons why I didn't vote. I just don't vote. I don't want to get into it. Carlin didn't vote, so I don't vote. I know that's a terrible reason, and we shouldn't obey everything Carlin says, but I obey everything Carlin says, so that's what I've said before. And but I'm not talking bad about Trump this time, even though he did. I don't know what they're doing with that wretched description of a wall down by Mexico, but can the Republicans reopen Mexico? I mean, do they know how to reopen Mexico? Can somebody tell me Mexico's closed and it needs reopened? Like, can somebody switch the sign the other way and says, Mexico, we are here. We're ready to do a deal with you instead of get shot from the border for thinking we're doing something illegal. If you're a regular person in Mexico, how are we going to get to the U.S. and how are we going to get to Mexico? Well, not on foot, that's for sure. But I mean, they're not. I mean, are there still crazy resort vacations to Mexico that used to keep everybody's economy thrilling? I don't know, dude. And I'm not trying to say there have to be everywhere you go some kind of like main of attraction. There doesn't have to be a main of attraction to not like a place or to like a place. You could have the main attraction there and it could still be the worst place you could be. Like, I'm not saying that universities and colleges are the main attraction for me, but they are. I mean, and museums, and archives, and restoring films and finding silent films on the web and restructuring them video-wise and seeing what they look like further on and mixed with other silent films. And it's an endless cycle of these visual analysis you give just to see where other films would fit together and be like pieced together. I wrote an article once for National Geographic. I've actually written a couple. One I wrote on how the coral reef was growing. You could grow coral reef with like genetic cloning, even back then, because it wasn't necessarily an animal or a vegetable. It's an animatable. But this other one I did for National Geographic had Pandora's Box and The Last Laugh, the German Expressionist films that came out before the Third Reich rose in Germany and the war started. But it was Pandora's Box and The Last Laugh, and I said, I think they're from the same script because they had been from the same book, the same novel, German novel, and so I thought there's two of those, and they mean the same thing, and then they're titled both The Last Laugh over Pandora's Box, and I don't think it works spliced together. It seems like the last laugh guy doesn't get the last laugh, and it seems like somebody else opened the Pandora's box. But to assure you, I've seen the notes of the UFA about how all their films were leading to the one film category. Like all the films were compiling together to lead to the one film mastery. And they kind of got that with Metropolis. I mean, it does have everything in it, including a somnambulist, which we'll talk about in film criticism. Or maybe we'll do a whole class on film noir, or actually a silent film class. But I think I introduced enough silent films in these film classes. Even in Tarantino, I'll be discussing similarities between like Broken Blossoms and how like the Pam Grier movie Jackie Brown was like Foxy Brown, but it had these elements also of these like women at work movies that were really popular. And I'm not talking about like that kind of work. I'm saying women that work in the movies and how that's emulated later on by actors today, where women have these high-powered jobs. Like Zero Dark 30 had this woman in this high-powered network in a Catherine Bigelow movie, and she was like so high-powered, she's like going to take down Osama bin Laden if it's the last thing she does. And I think that's true to how the world is moving now to the female protagonist of a movie. I can see how some people veer away from female antagonism because a lot of it can be like captured in like a moment of their fallen beauty, like with Woman Under the Influence or something, you know. And here I'm getting all lost in these film analysis, but the women that are powerful characters now are carrying movies, and so it's like, not that there are a lot of great actors, but the actresses that are carrying the movies are doing this in decent courage that people still want to see movies, and they do, but the price tag has been more evened up since capitalism has been so provokingly good to us all in the last 4 years or 5 years, 2 years, for however long this has been going on. I can't say that I don't just like return to sender when I get anything like valuable, but sometimes I do, because I don't necessarily want to take that as my value unless I had something to do with it. But I've been in the trading game even here where I live, in the policy is no trades, but everybody trades a pack of gum for a toothbrush, or anyway. And so I'm not saying that if the value's been traded across that I could even cover, then I would take the trade, and that's just a little personal about me and how I do economics, because the money flowing to you back and forth from school isn't really counting, because if it's from the school to the school it shall go back, says my version of the rules that are written already like that. And that's okay, because there are some professors struggling with mortgages and car payments that do deserve, based on what they own, a better life based on their own money situation that should pay off a few of their inquiries. But I never got into it for that. Mine was more for the professorship to be covered and the studentry to be covered, since there's so much school in it. To cover the school would be the goal for me, and I've done that. I've stayed out of debt. I'm in no debt, zero debt, but I don't want to go on talking about like facts and certainties like you may already have over on the internet about me that I don't know. And there's a lot about me that I didn't explain that will come out through the testing. And we got the Griffith test back and nobody failed. And that's good, but nobody could really get around to the answer that in both had occurred. So I'm taking any answer as long as it's supported well, and they must have supported well, because there's people out here in the interim, and I don't think YouTube's going to stop you from looking down here first, but we won't have the interim even like viewed and screened until there are people through the stack before it. Scientifically, we measure this on YouTube and call it the 300 subscriber process. And again, I don't know if these come out right as I hit the upload button and come out all the way over your advanced technology, but please save these, record these, do what you can. I mean, just the archives can save and restore, but who can like naturally always have access to an archive? And I have access to the Library of Congress archive. I've been with the Library of Congress for all these years, you know. And so I thank Calarts for the PhD because it was the best thing to happen in my writing career. I've been having a great time. And while there is the certain doubts, the doubters light, the light to their fire will go out. And we'll go back to them and we'll start their fire again. And we'll just kind of mosey out of their way and not really look into what would drive someone to really prove someone wrong without looking at any evidence whatsoever. But it may stand up in my town that I'm not even allowed to say the word PhD to anyone, which I just said it to you. PhD, you know. I can say it to you, but, you know, I can understand also how, like a little town would be shaken by it, you know. And I'm not trying to bag on anyone here. We got better filmmakers on the Western Slope than anywhere. We got Arn McConnell. He's the greatest. He's still animating. And some of his cartoons are still really badass. And then you have Todd Brady, who is above me by miles in just terms of his equipment. He like drives. He's pretty soon he's going to get one of those battle cars to direct a film from if it keeps getting this interesting. And, like, nobody will be able to cross the rope until he's done with the shot, you know. And then we've still got Seth Schaefer, and Seth Schaefer, actually, I can't thank him enough for his drone tutorial program, but I think that, honestly, he's got more drones than anyone else. And that's because he said he was going to buy the perfect lens and have all this money left over to do with whatever with. And those are the kind of guys I like being in commercials because they're showing you what you should have if you have money to left over with. So there's other people in this town that I talk to, that know more about film than me. And like Todd Braley, I studied Hitchcock in college, a lot about Hitchcock, Lady Vanishes and all that. Todd Braley's review on Lady Vanishes would probably outdate mine by several millennia. No, he's not that much older than me, but he's only a little older than me, but he's much, much wiser. It's because he's worked in some aspects of the business that I never will. And that's only because my path has come that way in the filmmaking business, and I didn't break any rules about that so much that I could figure. And if the internet's calling me a director, maybe I really do make movies. I don't know. I think I do. But we're not here in regular Masterclass to even raise a question for my career. I'm here to teach you about their career. And a successful career like Tarantino, and the way he is like one of the film gods, and the way we all hear his name and shudder in relief because someone's going to say something cool about a guy that no one gives bad criticism to anyway. For fear of their life, yes, but that's not even, we still fear for our life around them when we've given them a good review, and that even if it's the most awesome review he's ever received, you'd have to have it backed up with like a scene you remember most popping into your head. It's like how can I explain the natural lessons that come from an auteur like Tarantino, then from a point where I'm underneath that veil of Tarantino as an independent director, that I would never claim authorship in the way he's stated it in 10 films that he's made, 9 films that he's made, if you count Kill Bill as one. Because Grindhouse isn't 2. Yeah, we'll discuss that next semester. We'll get to that. All right, I think we've discussed a lot of this enough on the interim. It doesn't have to be a full hour of masterclass right now of me teaching you what I've heard and what I've seen. And take no heart into any of my misadventures, because I've had a few, but most of the time being a professor has been the highlight of my whole freaking life. So I don't even have problems anymore telling you that I've got it good, because I've got what professors take it for, and that is to ultimately have something to give back to the school when they've given so many opportunities to me, and we'll just work it out that way. All right, thank you for checking out this interim masterclass. We'll be back to teaching normal classes. The Tarantino class starts December 27th. And if I start a day early, well, that's just because my fans have been railing me to get these classes taught and to get these working credits for my professorship. And I think everyone can agree on that. It's got to be something that's got to get done over a course of 8-9 years. We've been going for 2. Well, we're going to go longer than that, we hope. But hope isn't the same as knowing for sure what's going to happen next. So thanks for believing in me, Masterclass. We'll see you next time. All right, bye.